dirtiest prime.
Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, Review, Part 2. All you need to know is rocket boots. Row, row, row your boat. Uhura's sexy dance. Three-breasted cat lady fight, marshmelons, and they find God in the middle of the galaxy. Put that way, it actually sounds pretty good.
What's going on here?
Pavel,
I won't force you.
you've got to listen to
The
this
decision
man.
must be yours.
I don't understand.
Each of us hides a secret pain. Share yours with me and gain strength from the sharing.
It seems like the supporting cast fell for Cybok's powers a lot easier than the core three. And I guess they explain it away as their bond or whatever, but I'm like, it kind of makes everybody else look like,
Well,
oh,
we're actually gonna
I guess Chekhov and Sulu's friendship wasn't strong enough to fight Cybok's influence.
They're not real friends.
But Kirk, Spock, and well, they vacationed together. They were they must
Well,
have
they were
some
just
sort
going
of,
to find everybody else.
Yeah, and Scotty and Uhura are in love, but that bond isn't strong enough either.
No, that wasn't strong enough either.
Yeah, that's strictly physical.
Only the bond of three old men.
Yeah.
Look, our bond could defeat Cybok. See?
Well, well, that's the thing is that originally in the mind meld scene, the way that they had written it initially was that everybody fell for Cybok's, trance, and Leonard Nimoy and DeForest Kelly were like, "Nah, we don't think this is I don't think this is how my character would behave in the scene." So Shatter finally had to like acquiesce to that. But it kind of reminds me of what you were saying, Namir, about, oh, you thought it was going to be like the William Shatner show. It was going to be just me all by myself against everybody. And that's kind of what the script was a bit more like initially until they pushed back on that. I mean, it's a little weird. It kind of comes through in the writing. Like it's weird that everybody falls for them except for those three. It doesn't feel very organic. And I really love that mind meld scene. But I wish we would have seen sort of inside Kirk's mind. Like for it would have been more satisfying to see Cybok do the same thing on him and him resist it than for him just to be like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then that's it. That's the end of that. Because I think there was a missed opportunity there.
Yeah, maybe, but I kind of like that they didn't, because I would have shone the spotlight on Kirk and Shatner again. Right, so it's like, okay, well, that if they do that, then it's definitely about Kirk's journey, and it's not.
What would his secret pain be?
Who knows? His life,
Like
his toupee.
Well,
who knows?
It would have been David. David, either David dying, or it would have been like
Edith Keeler, maybe.
Yeah, like I know because Edith Keeler wasn't really his fault. I guess it could be that, but it would have been something like that.
Yeah,
or
I don't know if it
might
would
have
have been
been like
David, because it's like a secret pain, right? Like it's a thing that, and Shatner doesn't seem to have that, right? He just like Kirk's character seems to be very open, and he's logical, but he's also emotional, right? Like he's kind of in the middle of Bones and Spock, right? So he's both.
Well, I think what his secret pain is you see it in I'm trying to remember what episode it was from the original series where he says no beach to walk on. Oh, it's from Naked Time. And so you get to see his secret pain in the Naked Time, and you could have had a bit more of like he left somebody behind to become a starship captain, because that would be his pain, his secret pain, that he left his family behind or Earth behind or something like that.
I don't know. It's not on the same level as Bones killing his father days before a cure was found for his disease. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
like I don't know.
It's like, man, like they found like what's the worst thing that could happen to someone? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
the only
Well,
thing
you were
would be
talking
worse
about
if it was his own child versus his parent.
But I think you brought up a good point, Alan, that's this is like Bones actually gets some depth um, you get to know that, oh, yeah, his dad's name was, and in Star Trek 3, you hear him say, Leonard H. son of David. So then, oh, now you get to see David. And it's a great scene. The only thing that confused me, and now I've just accepted it, was in every other instance where Cybok, puts his spell on somebody, he just kind of looks into their eyes, and then you hear a little heartbeat sound effect, and then they like, whoa, and they cry or something like that. And that's all that happens. But in this case, it's like a whole scene happens. It's like, and at first I go, okay, we're seeing inside his mind. He's having a hallucination. But what's implied is that Kirk and Spock can also see. And I'm like, whoa, what's happening? Why is there's like
I find that odd too. I mean, it's great dramatically, but logically, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of gonna look it up, but I don't think I will now. But because I don't remember that. Like I always thought it was Cybok and Bones in like Bones' head, right? Like they're Spock and Kirk are like they're not seeing what Bones is seeing, but they can see Bones react to stuff, right? Like,
but then I could buy that. But when Spock witnesses his birth, they actually are looking at it and they're saying, "Oh, what are we looking at?" And Spock says, "Oh, this is my birth." And
yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
I don't know. So maybe it's like a 2-tier system. So some people that are special, it's like a whole show. And other people that aren't as important, it's like a very quick.
All the above the line actors get to see other people's hallucinations.
Yeah, exactly. All the unionized actors.
Yeah.
I found it odd too, like how quick Bones turns around too. Like it seems like Spock never falls for it and Kirk never falls for it, but McCoy does for about 5 minutes, and then he's like, "Oh, I guess you can tell me a few of these guys are not minding your bullshit."
It's
like,
oh,
you just broke the spell that you broke the spell that easily just by, oh, I guess I'm gonna stay here too. Okay.
Well, that's the thing. That's the last minute change that kind of that kind of like reads through. You kind of feel it. It's like, oh, it's not really organic. It's like the actors made a demand and it doesn't quite flow. But at the same time, it would make more sense for McCoy to be emotionally like, yes, this is the guy, this kind of thing. And that's fine. The problem is, like in the same thing in the ending, is that the turn is so quick, him falling for Cybok and then unfalling for Cybok sort of happens so quickly. You don't really get to feel it. Like if we'd been in that sort of awkward place for a little longer where they're trying to convince Kirk, and Kirk is, no, I need my pain, this sort of thing. And there's a bit more conflict, just in one extra scene of it or something, I don't know, something might have been interesting there, but they kind of we were robbed of a good conflict.
Yeah, I kind of thought there should have been like some subterfuge where they like play along with Cybok, and then you think that they're like working with him, and then it ends up that they can turn on him in a key moment and save Kirk or whatever, but they just decided like, oh, I guess we're just gonna stay captive. Okay. Well, I guess by that time they're Shakari. He says, they might as well come along. Okay, we're here. Like, I don't have to lock you up. Just come with me. We'll see you. I'm right.
Well, you know what I think? I mean, the aside from these sort of logic problems, the scene is very good. The McCoy scene with his dad is very good, and it's really good acting. And you don't usually get to see that level of acting and poignancy and Star Trek. And then the Spock scene is amazing. It's fun that they bring back Mark Lennon to do the voice of the younger version of himself.
Sarek, your son.
So human.
But what's, I think, really phenomenal about that scene is that it's a huge turning point for Spock's character, because his whole arc in the whole series into the movies where he's trying to purge emotion, he's constantly like at war with himself, and he's trying to like figure out his place, and he's kind of always uncomfortable, and then he does the Kolinar, and he's just all that sort of stuff, and all that culminates in that scene where Cybok's like, I know who you are, and you're just you're still like insecure, and throws this thing at him, and Spock says, "No,
You are my brother, but you do not know me. I am not the outcast boy you left behind those many years ago. Since that time, I have found myself and my place. I know who I am, and I cannot go with you."
and it's like, it's so satisfying every time I hear it, because
That's
that's the
what I think.
moment.
That's what I say.
Yeah.
That's what saves this movie is these character moments. Like these character scenes are so well done. Like it holds my interest to get to the end because I'm enjoying those scenes
Yeah,
versus the overall plot of the movie.
Yeah, but honestly, like that's why I love these movies, right? Like, because of the character moments between the three of them and the rest of the crew. That's what makes these movies special. It's not really the plot ever,
No, we
like
could use a good plot along with those great character moments.
yeah,
would be
but
nice.
even if the plot just needs to be okay, right? Like the search for Spock, the plot was fine. It wasn't anything special, right? Like honestly, same with Undiscovered Country. I was like, it's just
but
okay.
I think you can make that argument for any movie. The plot is meaningless unless you have good character moments, and the character moments by themselves, they don't need a plot. But that's like an art film, basically. And so, if you got a good plot with good character moments, then you get yourself a good movie, and you get yourself like a Star Trek 2 or Star Trek 4, basically.
Yeah, I would largely agree with that. But you can have a movie that's just all plot and not a lot of character moments, and it's still good. It's still fun to watch, right?
Like Moonraker is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Or like a lot of Guy
I'm
Ritchie
trying to think
movies
of
are like that.
a good, well plotted movie that has crap characters. I don't know if that exists.
Not crap
Well,
characters.
it's not
but
crap characters, but it's not about the relationship between the characters, right? Like the characters are just there to move through the plot, which is interesting enough to be engaging, right? Like
I feel like if you don't have a character to relate to or whatever, what's the point?
Well,
I feel like you're describing James Bond perfectly. Well, at least the old James Bond.
like James Bond movies, like for me, Snatch was like that. It's like those types of movies, right? But they're still fun to watch. Like the first Transformers movie, like there's so many of those actually, but they're still okay, right? But with Star Trek movies, they always seem to have a pretty good balance, right? A really good character work. And the character work is not, like they have the added advantage of having all of this material before those movies, right? Like you've got the original show, for Star Trek 5, you've got the previous movies, so you built all those character relationships ahead of time, right? So, that's kind of what makes this movie really fun to watch is watching more of that, right? Watching the banter and playing against type and all that stuff.
Let's talk about the Great Barrier and the visual effects.
Okay.
It's so bad. It's like TV quality, low budget TV quality.
Yeah,
I love yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but my argument is that I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters.
Oh.
Right? Like it's bad special effects. It's fine. There's so many movies with bad special effects that are still pretty good.
Yeah, but they set a standard visually with this franchise of ILM doing top notch work, and then we have it shopped out to a budget provider, and it just looks like garbage. Like the Enterprise A is such a beautiful model, and it just looks like crap. Like all those galactic barrier scenes, it looks so poorly composited. There's no detail. There's no scope to the shots. It's just painful to watch that whole sequence. And it's like, what did they do? Just film like colorful bubbles or something swirling? It looks like garbage.
They put liquid in other liquids, and they just do this stuff.
I know,
my favorite visual effects. Sorry, go ahead, Alan.
Oh no, I'm just thinking. You go back to Star Trek 2, and the Nebula looks so good, and then this looks like garbage. Like it should be at least as good as Star Trek 2 or better because it's like 7 years later. Yeah. Well,
I think there's an argument. I can make an argument. There's that I like the visual effects model work in this movie more almost than the other movies, but it's more the intangible effects like the warp effect or the Great Barrier. And I think the Great Barrier is important because it's such, they keep talking about it. Where are they going to go to the Great Barrier? And what ends up being is like they just zoom into stars and they fade into like paint buckets of swirling paint. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's not good.
But when
I'm watching it on
that,
4K as well, and it looks really bad.
But when you get past that and you get to the actual planet with the swirly stuff around the planet, that looks great. And I think if the stuff right before it would have looked as good. But you know what I like? There's like a real like tangible quality to the visual effects, like the planets. Especially later we'll go into digital planets. Like the planets look like real planets, like the outer space stuff. And the little shuttle pod or shuttlecraft looks like a real thing, and they're so good at integrating it with all this like special effects, like on set special effects where they actually built a full-size shuttlecraft and then they kind of lower it with a crane and kind of hit the crane somehow, and so all those elements kind of make it feel more real. And yep, I like that.
Like when they see God and they're all standing there, and it just looks like God's on a movie screen. Like it's just projection. It looks terrible. I get it. God looks like he's on a low-res TV. Why does God look like he's on a low-res TV? It didn't really bother me that much. I don't know why. I just, it's like one of those things. If you're enjoying the movie and the plot's fun and you're having a good time, then the special effects don't. Well, I think I just really watched all 6 of these enough that this one sticks out like a sore thumb. When you look at 6, you look at 4, you look at 3, and I know, but it's gorgeous. All comparative. Like it's it's relative. Yeah, right? Comparing. It's like beautiful and garbage. I know, but we watched the original series, and all of those special effects are terrible. Like it's utter crap. I always take it when I watch something too. I would take it in the context of when it was made and the effort that had to go into it. Like I can watch a sci-fi show like Earth Conflict from the 90s and see the bad CGI, but it works because of the era it's in. It was cutting edge at the time, and I have a nostalgia for it, so I don't mind it. But when you're capable of doing better, I really hate that, dude. You watch Babylon 5, and you're a huge Babylon 5 fan. Like that has the worst special effects. It does, ever. But because they were so cutting edge at the time, you appreciate the work that went into it. And same with the 60s Trek, like the work they did there. But this, they were capable of doing better at this point in 1989. And they didn't. Yeah, I think they were capable of doing better, but they did a good enough job that it, for most people, I don't think it's going to pull them out of it.
Well, and the thing is that it's like one of those things that we've already talked about what the problems are with the movie, and if the movie hadn't had those plot problems, these sort of visual effects type things would matter much less, because you just like if you're on, like you say to me, if you're in for the ride, as I am. Then I don't care as much about that stuff. But I think it's more the Great Barrier is really the only disappointment because they talk about it a lot. So you're really expecting something, and sort of what you kind of see with the Nexus later on, or even the that sort of Praxis Shockwave in the last Star Trek 6. That is sort of what I want to see and hear. But that's not what we got. And it's interesting because if you go on YouTube. People have actually gone ahead and tried to redo some of this visual effects with CGI. And what I don't understand is Paramount put a bunch of money, not just in the 2001 director's cut where they redid the visual effects, but the recent 4K version that they released last year or 2 years ago. And why don't they do that for Star Trek 5?
I've always wondered that too. I'm like, they could make convincing Rockman now. I'm like, let Shatner make the ending that it was originally supposed to be. I think it's because either they hate the movie or they hate William Shatner. I don't know. They're just leaving money on the table. If you ask me, I mean, like, I would buy that if they made a special edition director's
I don't
cut
know.
and they improved everything.
Well, yeah,
Sure,
exactly.
like,
If it-
Alan's like, I would buy it for $15 million just to make it worth it.
It's like, as long
Cover
as
the
it was
budget.
good.
well, I heard somewhere that William Shatner actually had approached them, and they just turned him down, and they wouldn't let him do a director's cut. And I was like, oh, come on, guys, like it's not that. Anyways, it's just it's one of those things. It's disappointing
Yeah.
because I think that you could fix some things, like Star Trek: The Motion Picture doesn't need fixing. There was nothing wrong with it initially. There was nothing to fix, really. They just kind of upgraded it a little bit, but there was nothing to fix. This movie, visual effects wise, needs fixing. The whole ending doesn't work because they had a visual effects problem and because they had a budget problem. They could fix the movie. They have the footage that they filmed. They went out and filmed stuff. They could fix the movie now, and they won't do it. And it just drives me crazy.
Yeah, but that's
It's
not really
odd.
a visual effects problem. There's like stuff missing. There's footage actually missing that they need to put in to make the movie make more sense.
But I think they actually filmed a bunch of stuff that they couldn't use because they had visual effects.
And
Like,
and they
they
can
did it-
recreate any environment now. Like if they need a shot of the desert with William Shatner running through it, like they can make that.
Yeah.
You can just
Yeah,
do
you know
that
what?
digitally now.
In 10 years, you can just ask AI to do it. Just wait. Like
Yeah.
you'll
Jim,
your
we'll
dream
do-
will come true.
Well,
It can
and I just wanted to point out quickly that what's interesting in this film is they kind of do the they don't use blue screen when they're looking at windows or looking at the view screen. They're actually, like what Alan was talking about, they had some screens there. I don't really know what that technology was, if it was just film projected on or something else. But to me, it's like the early version of the AR walls. And I think that by and large, aside from maybe what you were talking about, Alan, with the God shot where they look like they're looking at a TV screen, most of it is like really cool because what it allows them to do, what ends up happening in a lot of movies from this time period, is you get stuff where you have inconsistent focal lengths, where there's a person talking in front of a blue screen, and then like in Return of the Jedi, and then the stars, like the bulkhead behind them are out of focus, but the stars out the window are in focus because they hadn't figured how to do that stuff, or they hadn't thought of it, or whatever. It just drives me crazy visually. And in this movie, everything actually, if it's at a star field in a window, it actually looks out of focus properly because it actually is, it's physically there. They're physically looking at it. So I thought that was great that they used that.
Yeah, most of that stuff I didn't stick out like a sore thumb, like some of the stuff I've mentioned. There's also one other little thing that drives me crazy about this movie that has nothing to do with anything else we've talked about, is the fact, why did they send the Enterprise? Because
The
he
only ship in
talks
the
to that
quadrant.
admiral, the only ship in the quadrant, and then they said there's other ships, and it's like non-experienced commanders. I'm like, why do they have no experienced commanders? And I'm like, literally, the Excelsior is sitting in space dock right beside the A, and there's been all these times where experienced commanders have just dropped in, like Jellicoe in Chain of Command, or Pike in Discovery, where it's mission specific, and they just take over command briefly. Like, why didn't they just give him another ship? They just put Kirk on another ship and send him. It made no sense to me. I'm like, why would they send this very important mission and send in a ramshackle ship that needs repair? Why not put your experienced commander in a decent ship and send them on a dangerous mission? It made no
That
sense
would be
to
like
me. It drives me
like
crazy.
a 20-minute movie. And Kirk's like,
know,
no, there's
it's all-
other
it's all
commanders.
this-
And he's like, oh yeah, you're right, there is. We'll send the Excelsior.
No, it's like just these little logic problems. I'm like, it drives me insane.
It doesn't bother me that much because
Oh,
they
that
kind of
stuff bothers me.
play that gag in almost every movie. It feels like in the motion picture, it was like, we're the only ship in the quadrant, the only ship between Earth and V'ger, and you're like, really? It's Earth, the center of the Federation. There's no patrol
I guess that
ship?
made no sense.
There's nothing
either.
else going on, and so at least in this one, they go, well, yeah, we have other ships, but we just don't have an experienced commander to deal with this particular situation. Where you're like, well, that makes sense to me. Like Kirk is probably
I
the
was
most
like, okay, can I
experienced.
have one of those good ships then? And send me if I'm the good one, the commander.
But no, but they wouldn't. It's the Enterprise. He's not going to give up the Enterprise, and
But
he believes in Scotty, and I mean, it becomes a whole gag in the movie, the whole tech thing, and I like it. I like that they kind of like are a little irreverent because especially it's sort of like the antidote to a motion picture where they're like they see the Enterprise, they're like, Enterprise, I'm so in love, and they just do this like long 9-minute like departure sequence, and in this one they're like, what a piece of shit ship.
like it's
Nothing
disaster.
works.
I know,
Yeah.
so great. Like the doors don't open, and like nothing works. The computer voice sounds all wonky. Kirk sits in his chair and it's squeaky, and he's like, "I miss my old chair."
Yeah, I love that. And I love the captain's log, and that was the best one where you like the star
The
field,
spring
like, captain's.
I'm like, why is there a
and then
spring
like all the
load of
noises it's making? He's like tapping it.
So ridiculous.
Oh, but then they bring back the "Good Morning, Captain" joke from Star Trek 3, which I love too. They have these little callbacks to the other movies. It has its own like a little ecosystem. They do some callbacks, like when they do the rocket boots and they overshoot, and then McCoy says,
Nobody's perfect.
and it's a callback to him saying nobody's perfect in Star Trek 4.
Nobody's perfect.
And so stuff like that keeps coming back. So I just like that little continuity coming back.
Yeah.
Not only referencing the original series, but referencing the movies themselves.
Excuse me.
It will carry my power to every corner of creation.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship?
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching it the first time and going like, oh, I don't know about this movie. They're going to go look for God. What's that going to look like? How is that going to get resolved? And I think the main problem with the ending is not the resolution, because I think the resolution and the sort of twist at the end actually is really good. The problem is all in the editing and the pacing. It's something happened where they were missing footage basically, and they
It's
they
a
would
very
like
choppy ending.
Then it's like they're missing stuff. So they just went like, okay, God, bad God, shoot the God, run away from the God, shoot the God. And it was like, what just happened? Like it took me probably 20 years before I realized what happened. Like I didn't understand who was that guy. Was that guy God? Like was he? And the only answer was like Cyborg's like, this is my ego, my whatever. It's like, oh, is that your ego? Like I'm confused.
Yeah, I felt like it reminded me of like the movies I make in college, and you realize when you get to editing that it's like, oh, I didn't shoot enough stuff. I didn't do enough coverage, and then you got this mound of stuff that doesn't really come together very nicely, and that's what I felt about this ending, because I think it's the point too where it's like after they shoot the photon torpedo, and then everything kind of collapses, and then all of a sudden Kirk's running away. There's zaps coming after him, but where are these zaps coming from? It's like he's like running out of the shuttle, and there's like laser eyes. Oh, is he in the shuttle? I'm like, who's shooting at it? And you don't really see him again until you don't see the God figure, I don't believe, until he's actually like up that mountain, and then he's confronting him, and then the bird of prey rises up, because you don't really know what's chasing him at that point. And like, is he just running away from zaps?
Well, I understood that what he was running away from. I think there's the problem for me is a lack of explanation, basically.
Yeah,
and and I think eventually I go, oh, okay, this was some sort of energy being that was being like that obviously it does something wrong. He was like evil, and his rays had like put him on this planet because the only thing that would contain him is the Great Barrier. It's like and so he was trying to escape, and he was kind of like V'ger. He was a little bit like telekinetic or something, or telepathic, and and he reached out and talked to Cybok and was like, "Oh, here's a sucker," and started to play with like Cybok's beliefs and all this sort of stuff, and then manipulate it into coming there. Which, if they would have just taken 2 minutes to explain that,
Yeah,
then
that's
it would have
exactly
been
what you just said. If somebody had said that, would have helped.
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of not self-explanatory, but you get the plan. Like, you get what's going on. It's not like you need it like laid out for you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not Discovery. It's it's like
it took me 20 years to figure out exactly what happened at
what?
the end.
Come on, no way.
I don't
Are
know
you
if it took me
serious?
that long, but
It's okay. Fair enough.
you know
I don't
what?
know. I don't know. But I will say that the one thing that doesn't make sense is that it needs a ship to escape, right? Like, I think they are missing a piece, and I think the piece is that in order for whatever this creature or this being is to escape, the plan should have been that he takes over Cybok, right? Like, he kind of like jumps into Cybok's body and then escapes on a ship as Cybok. They just needed that little piece there, and it would have all sort of hung together for me.
that's another logic flaw for me too, is the fact that the bird of prey is right there. Because he tells them, it's like, oh, can you bring your spaceship closer? Because he already took control of their shuttlecraft as they entered the atmosphere, and he's saying, oh, bring your spaceship closer, because he wants to control it. And there's a spaceship literally right there on the other side of this hill, and apparently he can't take control of that. I
think the problem was it shot it in the face before he could take it over.
Really, he couldn't sense that there was a ship right there?
I don't know. He was trying to kill
He can
Kirk.
reach into the cosmos and touch a person's
Well,
brain.
he had just been hit in the head with a photon torpedo. Don't you remember? He was all like dazed and concussed. He was like,
This movie betrays its own logic all the time, and it drives me insane.
Well, who knows? Who knows how energy beings work? We have no idea.
Well, the other thing is, I think part of what resolved this for me is the Star Trek Next Generation episode Nth Degree, where Barclay gets taken over by these beings that live in the center of the galaxy, and he gets there, and they make him super smart so he can like change the ship or whatever. And then they get there, and then they're just super benevolent, and they're just a big head. And I go, oh, those guys, the Shakari or whatever, the bad guy down on the planet, that's like one of those guys. That's like their prison.
What's with all these like things being in the center of the galaxy? Isn't the center of the galaxy a black hole?
Yes, but I don't know that they knew that
criminals.
in 1999.
I think they did. They must have.
No.
I also thought
I mean,
that
no, I don't think so.
that the corny special effects of Cybok and the Ian Cybok or whatever, his ego, when they're fighting, it looks a lot like that corny fight scene from the Alternative Doctor with the two Lazarus fighting in the antimatter doorway. But oh man, this looks so bad. And it reminded me of how bad that episode was too.
Okay. Well, I thought that just in terms of the theme of the search for God, I think it was bold. I think it was problematic. It was interesting because when William Shatner, who directed the film, when he went and talked to Harv Bennett and tried to get Harv Bennett to have produced Star Trek 2 and 3 and 4 to come back and do Star Trek 5, Harv Bennett was like, this is not going to work. Like, you can't have the search for God, just like what you said, Alan, because then you're going to just, whatever you show is going to be a disappointment. And then William Shatner got really like Roddenberry on his ass, and he was like, no, they'll go there and it won't be God. It'll actually be Satan. But I think he actually meant Satan, not like figuratively Satan. It'll actually be Satan. And I'm not sure about that. So I'm really happy that they kind of talked him down from that sort of initial thing where there was going to be Satan and there's going to be like angels and they were going to like chase, Kirk across the landscape. Now, what there were supposed to be were rockmen that came out of the rock. Do you guys know about this? Yeah, I think you do.
Yeah,
sort of.
I've seen the test footage on the special features.
Oh,
but
that's
I didn't
right.
think it looked that bad for 1989. Like like they said, oh, it looked like a guy in a rubber suit. I'm like, well, doesn't every creature in an 80s movie look like a guy in a rubber suit? I'm like, and it's like, it's charming, we like those. We like the
Well,
guys.
and so when he's running away, and initially, the footage was supposed to be him being running away from the Rockman, and then with the way they had wrote it and budgeted it, it was going to be 6 Rockmen, and he was going to be like fighting them off or whatever he was going to do. But then, the budget kept dwindling and dwindling, and then they had 1 Rockman instead of 6. I'm like, okay, fine, I guess we'll do 1 Rockman. And they shot footage, and they felt like it looked dumb, so they just didn't use him. So it kind of reminds me of Superman Quest for Peace.
Yeah, it looked way better with the C grade special effects they used instead for the energy being chasing. I would rather see the guy in the rubber suit myself.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Spock.
I was thinking of Sabak. I've lost a brother.
Yes. I lost a brother once. I was lucky I got him back.
Yeah. And then Kirk
Basically,
mentions
you
his
have-
brother at the end. He's like, I had a brother once.
Oh man, that's painful too when he says that. I'm
Yeah.
like, you have a real brother that you don't who got killed by those flying big vomits in the original show. I'm like, hey, why don't you? He's like, I lost a brother, but then I was lucky enough to get him back. I'm like, well, what
he's
about
referring
George?
but that's the whole
No.
point, Alan. The whole point is he's referencing Sam in a way, and then but he's like, no, you're saying
No,
like,
I read that as he lost Spock in Wrath of Khan, and then he got
No,
And that's
no,
his brother.
No, he's talking about Sam.
I don't
He's
feel
definitely
he's
talking about Sam.
he's talking about
I
both.
don't-
He's saying I lost Sam, but I have you, and it's so touching.
Yeah.
See,
It's
this
so,
is
it's
really
such a
perfect.
perfect. It's so
But
perfect.
that's not how I read it. But I guess if you
Yeah.
do, yeah, okay.
Okay, we didn't talk about the last scene. That I mean, the whole Klingons being like friends with them is so silly, and but that last scene where they're all looking out the window with that music cue, and I want to talk about Jerry Goldsmith before we end the review because this is like an amazing score. But that little scene where they're all by the window and they're all kind of reflecting, and it's just fucking love that scene. It's like it's as good as the campfire scene.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great. I
and-
love that they got like a ship's wheel on the actual ship. I don't know if we see it ever again, do we?
No.
No.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
should have
cool.
that
I like
on
it.
the bridge. They should actually make the ship go with it.
But they had one of those. Remember, they had one of those on Strange New Worlds, where the pirate ship. They had one of those.
That's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
The pirate ship did have one.
Makes no sense.
What
but
do you
it's nice.
guys think? You like that, Alan? You like that last scene?
I do. I mean, in my head, I was questioning why he wasn't thinking of, because I totally thought the death and getting a brother back was just Spock and Spock. I was like, oh, what about Sam? But you guys are saying that he is talking about Sam. Well, okay, I'll buy into that. But yeah, I mean, it is a really nice scene. Like, it ties everything up nicely. Again, anytime those three are together, and then we get a nice little campfire epilogue too, here where the Spock breaks out the lute to play a little stairway, and
Well, and they in that last conversation they do a callback to the campfire scene where when the first campfire scene, McCoy says, and the mystery that draws us together. We're spending all those years in space, getting on each other's nerves, and then we spend shore leave together.
What do we do when shore leave comes along? We spend it together. Other people have families.
Other people don't, it's not us.
they are each other's family.
In the last scene, he goes, "It's like I thought you said men like us don't have families."
I thought you said men like us don't have families.
I was wrong.
That's not what I cried. It's so great. And I think that's what I
It's
mean. Like,
nice.
see, he doesn't consider, like, he loves Sam and his biological family, but that's not his family. Like Spock and Kirk, and to much lesser extent, Sulu, Spock, and Scotty and Uhura are also his family. And yeah, it's a really nice moment. And I love the moment when he goes, is God really out there? And I remember it's interesting my interpretation of that moment as a 13-year-old and now, because when I was a 13-year-old, I was very atheist, and now I'm a bit more open-minded. I'm not just like, it's like this. There's no God. It's done. And so, but what's interesting about that scene is that the Kirk, you can go both ways with it, because he says,
Is God really out there?
Maybe he's not out there, Bones. Maybe he's right here. Human heart.
and when I was a kid, I interpreted it as a very atheist thing. It's like, well, there is no God, but we can be our own gods, and our nobility and our morality is right here in the human heart, which is such a beautiful thing to say. But now I go, oh, does he mean that? Or does he mean that God does exist, but he's not out there? He lives in the heart, which is also nice. So anyways.
I like how Spock kind of looks like he's really thinking hard about what you just said. I'm like, just the human heart? There's no God in my heart?
Right. If it was
Yeah.
a
Just said
Klingon, I would have
the
been
heart.
like, which heart?
It's in there.
But also, then he's like, but
Let
my
me
heart's
the
not up
human
here,
heart.
Jim. It's like down here. Is God in my belly?
Yeah. But no, it is a nice moment.
Yeah, and then they start singing the round, and they all do it. They all participate. And Kirk nudges McCoy, and McCoy starts participating and starts singing his part. And like, to me, that ending is so, like, if that was how you ended Star Trek, like if that was how you ended their involvement in Star Trek, that would have been perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like encapsulating all the themes that we love, and they're still together, and that they have more adventures, and but instead we get Kirk under a bridge.
A bridge. Oh. Kirk goes from being on the bridge to the bridge being on him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really deep, this metaphor. The weight of command crushed
I don't know
him.
how deep that is.
Picard, I
Can't
have
wait
to
till we
die
do our
alone. Keep going.
30th anniversary review of Generations.
Oh, I can't wait. That movie's so bad. So bad.
That movie's actually bad, as opposed to this movie is like bad, but it's actually really good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Jerry Goldsmith for like 1 minute, and then let's get to our final thoughts. So Jerry Goldsmith did the score for this film. It's my favorite score ever of any movie. And this is the first time he comes back after the motion picture, and it's great because this is the first Star Trek movie that was in theaters after Next Generation was on the air. So the Next Generation, everybody was used to like turning on the TV and hearing that Next Generation theme, and then Jerry Goldsmith brought it back from the motion picture into this movie. So it was a nice continuity between the movies and the TV show. They were both playing basically the same music. And he brings back the Klingon theme, but like a bit more like, I don't know, like energetic. And there's a lot of great music.
Pronounced, and you notice it more.
There's a weird, like, I don't know. There's a weird little, I don't know what the instrument is, but it goes, da-da! You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. No, but maybe it's just Jerry Goldsmith going.
Then the bird call.
Yeah, it goes. I don't know why, but it's great.
Well, it makes sense because it's a bird of prey.
Yeah. Jerry
More deep thoughts.
Yeah, it's yeah. And he's so good at the music with those kind of really solemn, sort of introspective moments. Like like the campfire scene and the last scene that we were just talking about, he brings in the same theme, and you really believe in that. Like, it just brings that scene. It's already well acted and well written, but it kind of just puts it together, binds it together with the psychic energy. And anyways, I know I'm a big soundtrack fan, so you guys may have less to say about it, but I invite you to say a few words.
Well, I know I'm more familiar with it because you've played it so many times over the years in my presence. That I was like, oh, I know this beat. I know this beat. And it's all because you keep beating me over the head with this Final Frontier soundtrack for the last 20 years.
And you're welcome.
Thanks.
Amir, any thoughts about the music?
You know what? No. I liked it. It was fine. Jerry Goldsmith is amazing, and he never like disappoints, and good themes, good songs.
I should say that after this movie, he was like, I'm not doing another one. This movie sucked, and he didn't do one again until First Contact. But then he liked First Contact, so then he did the rest of the Next Generation movies, which was great. And he introduces a motif in this musical motif in this movie. That's that da 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 da, and he keeps bringing it back in different ways, and it's really cool how many different ways he brings it back, and you hear it in the movie. And then later, that same little note structure becomes kind of like Picard's theme. When you see Picard on the bridge and he's having a moment, you hear like da 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 da, which kind of becomes the sort of like the basis for the First Contact theme that then you hear in Star Trek Picard season 3.
I believe you, but I believe you too.
You're the music nerd.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
Let's go to our final thoughts and our ratings for this episode. And there's nobody has to guess what I'm going to rate it, but I'm very curious to see what you guys are going to rate it. Let's start with Alan.
It can't possibly be a 10 for you, can it? Really? I hope not. Anyway.
Let's worry about your rating.
Yeah. I don't know. I hadn't really given a rating much thought yet. I probably should have beforehand. I was like, am I entertained? Yes. Could it have been way better? Yes. The characters save it, so they've got that going for it. I feel like I would put this in I'm arguing between a 6 and a 7.
Oh, I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yes, I'll be generous tonight and give it a 7. Hey,
it's not to end any friendships.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe a better question is like, where would you rank it amongst all the movies?
It's like out of the 6, or are we talking like all?
Okay, no, out of 10. Out of 10 movies.
Out of the 10 movies, it's probably near the bottom. I don't know. It's swimming down there for me around like Insurrection Nemesis, down in those dregs.
What?
Where it's
my God.
The movies are fine. They entertain me,
the
but they're not
doldrums.
great. It's the doldrums. It's lacking in a lot of ways, which is funny because my opinion of Nemesis has actually went down over the years versus where I started. I think it's just an age thing and like maturity, but so stuff like that. I would put on a Frontier probably like 8, maybe 8 out of 10 for like the movies themselves. I don't know because I did have more fun with Final Frontier than I did with the motion picture.
But
I think there's a bunch of movies that it should be ahead of. Like you're saying it's worse than Generations.
okay, I have a soft spot for Generations, maybe the same way Lucas does for this movie. Because it come out when I was like on the, as a breakout Trek fan, Generations
on the edge of puberty.
Yeah, I guess. Because I was 13 when that movie came out, so it was it played different, and it hasn't spiraled down, in my opinion, over the years like ones like Nemesis had. So.
And do you have any final thoughts about the movie? Anything to say about the movie, or that's it?
Well, I think I said everything. Yeah, I do. I mean, I hate most of the visual effects. I think they're mediocre, and I think that pulls me out of parts of the movie. And the storyline is just kind of weak. It doesn't have the scope, that I would like to see in a Star Trek movie. But the characters, I mean, the actors and the characters were all great. Like except the Captain Claw, I think he's a waste of space, but everybody else was good. like Cybok was great, and the ambassadors were good, and of course the cast was firing on all cylinders. So, that's what saves this movie. It's just the characters, the dialogue between them, and that's really what I have to say about that.
Okay, Namir.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an... Alan, you gave it a 7, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to give it... Jeez. Okay, I'll have to give it a 9, I guess. I have to get a 9. Okay. Yeah, I have to give it a 9. Because here... Okay, so here's the order. It's Search for Spock, Rapicon, and then Final Frontier is at the same level as Voyage Home. So that's got to be a 9 in there, and then all the rest of the movies afterwards. Generations is like the last one with
you
with
put
Nemesis.
First Contact below this?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Wow. No,
but it would be next. First Contact.
That's
would be
crazy
next.
stuff.
Yeah, there will be. Yeah.
Nah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what I was saying.
Any final thoughts about the movie itself?
Yeah, it's one of those movies that gets better the more you watch it. I don't know why. I just I really enjoy it. I think the character work is so good, and their banter is so great that like it the poor special effects doesn't even matter. Like it's got some really great character moments. Some really funny gags that I think are the best in the series of Star Trek movies. I think it's just really well done, and it's underappreciated, which is odd because I think like 2 years ago I would not have said that, but for whatever reason, I don't know what happened. I think
wisdom and maturity.
No, whatever virus is affecting Lucas seems to have jumped over to me.
Okay, this movie gets 10 out of 10. Really, it gets an 11 out of 10.
That's ridiculous.
I'm
going to call this rating out.
So that is what I'm.
I support that. I support that rating.
So William Shatner, he's a flawed person. There's a lot of, he gets made fun of, and some of the cast hate him, and they tell bad stories about him. And I don't know him personally, so I can't say anything about that. He's from Montreal, so he gets some points for that. But I think what I like about his acting is what I like about his directing. He doesn't hold anything back, and he's very ambitious. And that means that sometimes he overacts, and he kind of falls on his face, or it's a little ridiculous. It's a little hammy. And this is what happens in this movie. This movie is so ambitious. He's like, they go, you get the car keys, you get to direct a movie. He's like, we're going to go meet God. I'm like, oh, is that where that's where you're starting? You're starting up here with your ambition? Okay, let's do this. And it really comes through in the movie. The amount of new sets, the scope of the movie. And so I think specifically one shot in this movie. People talk always about the Cobra Cabana shot that Martin Scorsese did in Goodfellas. In this movie, there's a steady cam shot where a shuttlecraft lands in the bay. The shuttlecraft, the city static comes in. The people the door of the shuttlecraft opens. Two guys put little steps. They walk out. They do a kind of a turn around the people. Then the camera goes into the elevator. They go into the elevator. The elevator is shut. They continue the scene. It's all in one take. And because it's not more Scorsese, people aren't, say anything about it, but it's such a beautifully choreographed shot, but also it kind of makes the whole universe feel lived in. It's not just like cut away. It just feels like it's all this big, great space that everybody's inside. And that's just one of many things that they do in this movie that I think is outstanding. And like I said, it's always been close to my heart. It introduced me to the concepts of spirituality and the meaning of life and mortality and all this sort of stuff. And I think they do pretty good tackling those issues. And the last thing I'll say is, as I mentioned before, they were dealing with a writer strike in 1988, so that was a problem. They were dealing with a Teamster strike. When they were on location, their trucks got bombed, like literally like exploded. So they were under a lot of pressure. And at the last minute, I think Paramount was like, well, I know we said this amount of money, but they took out like $5 million or something. And it's a real shame, because if they had that $5 million, they could have had their Six Rock Man. They would have an ending. And this is like, it's like a great movie just kind of missing an ending, but it's all there. So
yeah, I mean, I don't want to interrupt, but I don't necessarily miss the Rockman ending. Like I feel like the ending kind of works, and adding like shoehorning in this Kirk battle with 6 behemoth men made out of rocks, I think wouldn't have worked. So I'm kind of happy that they took that out. Yeah, well, I'm going to be the first one to sign a petition. I'm going to sign a petition for the 4K restoration of Star Trek V, and we can petition Paramount to do this. Or now I guess it's going to be Sundance, because they own Paramount.
Skydance.
Skydance. That's what
Sundance, the Robert Redford will own it now.
Sundance, no, Skydance, exactly. Okay, so that's the end of that review. This is a very busy month. We're going to have a Star Trek Next Generation review, Datalore coming up this week. Next week we have Angel One. This review,
some real winners.
Yeah. And we're going to be continuing all of season 1, and then we're going to get into season 2 of Next Generation.
Like, you brought up that shuttle bait scene. That might be a great shot, but like, why do they bring out steps to come out of a shuttlecraft? That made no sense.
Your logic has no place here.
Oh my god!
Just where is our future? The things we've done and said. Let's just push the button. We'd be better